You know, guys, the people of this country don't hate politicians enough. South Africans don't hate politicians enough, despite politicians every day proving to us that we don't care about you. Every day, the politicians of this country, they are demonstrating to us that we are in the position of power, and we are not in the position of power to serve you, the peasants, but we are in the position of power to serve ourselves and to serve our families. But it is so fascinating to see how South Africans love politicians, how much South Africans are willing to defend the politicians, the same people that don't give a damn about them. It is fascinating. I mean, guys, have you ever just sat down and observed everything that is happening in the country and realized that everything in this country is going out of hand? Literally everything is going out of hand. You look at crime, people are dealing with crimes. So South Africans are being slaughtered in the streets of this country, and there is nothing that is done about that. Now we are getting the reports that children are dying in different areas across the country. There's absolutely nothing that has been done about that. Children, it's almost as if right now the children are being targeted in this country, because every day the reports are coming out that 20 children have been admitted to hospital in the Eastern Cape. In Vryheid, 5 children have died. Yesterday, a child in Alexandra has died after consuming food that is contaminated. But there is absolutely nothing that has been done about the fact that children in this country, the future of this country, is being decimated. Absolutely nothing has been done. The people are being slaughtered. Just look at our infrastructure. People are dying in our roads because of the potholes. People are having massive accidents in our roads because of the potholes. Just look at the fact that in 2024, children are still dying in pit toilets. Children are still dying in pit toilets because such and such have decided to pocket the money that was supposed to build the toilets somewhere. 2024, people are dying of cholera because the politicians have decided to pocket the money that is supposed to build the water treatment systems. And now in 2024, people are still dying because the water is contaminated. I mean, guys, if we can sit here and talk about the issues, just look at the borders, man. We don't have the borders, and we know of the crimes that come with having the open borders. We know of the crimes that come with having open borders. Look at the illegal immigrants. Look at what the people are doing in this country. Just go on Carte Blanche on YouTube. Just check Carte Blanche on YouTube and just look at the mess that is happening in the country. Just look at the mess that is happening in the country. And we have the people in government, we have the politicians in parliament pretending like they care about what is happening in the country. What is one fight that these people are actually winning? What is one fight that politicians can say that we know, guys, that you have a lot of issues that you are not happy about, but you see when it comes to this one, when it comes to this front, we are winning the war on this front. What is it? What is it? Hard-working South Africans are paying hard-earned tax money to pay the politicians, to pay for the perks of the politicians. But the same people that are supposed to work for the people of this country are absolutely doing nothing. Absolutely doing nothing. The country is crumbling right in front of our eyes. The country is crumbling right in front of our eyes. You know, yesterday I was watching Carte Blanche, man. I don't know what actually triggered me into watching Carte Blanche. Yesterday, I just sat down and watched and consumed a lot of content from Carte Blanche. Unfortunately, I cannot do the reviews about the content of Carte Blanche because the last time I tried to do a review about the content of Carte Blanche, they actually sent me a warning. They sent me a warning. They went to YouTube and the YouTube had to take the video down. You remember that video that we once did of Edwin Sodi and how Edwin Sodi and his company destroyed every little place, destroyed everything. No, Carte Blanche took that video down. They went to YouTube and YouTube had to destroy that video and they gave me a warning. So unfortunately, the content of Carte Blanche, we cannot touch it right now, but it is so sad, man, what is happening in the country, man. It is so sad what is happening in the country. And yesterday, I was watching my boy, Tsepo Mavimbela. You see the guy that you see on your screen. Guys, please go to channel of Tsepo Mavimbela is absolutely amazing. Yesterday, I was watching this video of Tsepo Mavimbela, man, and it actually triggered something inside me. The fact that the politicians are spending so much money to protect themselves while the people of this country are depending on South African police service. It is absolutely insane. It is absolutely insane. I mean, you know, these are those kind of issues that you would think that the South Africans would be up in arms when they hear about the amounts that politicians are spending to protect themselves and their families while South Africans are depending on South African police service. When you hear 18 members being slaughtered in Lusikisiki, you would think that South Africans would actually be outraged with the fact that 18 family members have been slaughtered. No, we don't care about this. When you hear about children dying, you would think that South Africans would actually be outraged, but South Africans are not outraged. The only thing it seems like it is, the only thing that can actually frustrate South Africans and actually push them into an outrage, it is something that has to do with race. If it has to do with race, I'm telling you, tomorrow, South Africans will be all over the place. The news, that issue will be all over the place. A white man argued with a black man in Pretoria Mall. I'm telling you, that issue, it is going to be number one issue. But all of these issues that are literally destroying this country, it seems like South Africans don't care about them. It seems like South Africans don't care. And it is absurd to actually sit here and to pretend like the race issue, it is the only issue that is serious. The race issue, it is the only issue that can actually cause South Africans to go into a havoc. South Africans don't care. I mean, like, we don't care. The people of this country, they don't care. They don't care about the fact that horrible things are happening in this country. Horrible things are happening in this country. I mean, in the past 2 months, the stories that came out in the past 2 months, if we lived in a sane country, I'm telling you, this country would be in a standstill. This country would be in a standstill. But because those issues have nothing to do with race, it is fine. As long as the issues don't have nothing to do with race, it is fine. And I find it kind of absurd that this is the hill that South Africans are prepared to die on. This is what the South Africans are telling themselves, that if it has nothing to do with race, then we are not going to entertain it. Even the politicians are saying nothing. How many politicians have actually came out to say that, guys, our children are dying. The future of this country is being destroyed right in front of our faces. Where are the politicians? The politicians are nowhere to be found. The politicians are nowhere to be found. You know why? Because this issue does not serve them. This issue, it is not beneficial to them. They only attend on the issues that are beneficial to them. If you hear Helen Zille tomorrow said something about President Ramaphosa, Helen Zille accuses the ANC of being incompetent. You will see the likes of Herman Mashaba will be out here saying that Helen Zille, how can Helen Zille say that the ANC is destroying South Africa? Helen Zille is racist against black people. This is the only thing that South African politicians actually want to talk about. And I believe that it is absurd. It is absurd. It is absurd. Out of all the issues in this country, they don't want to engage on any issue that is affecting this country. If it has nothing to do with race, they don't care how outrageous the issue is. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to them, and it is totally absurd. So guys, let's hear what Tsepo Mavimbela is going to say about this issue of the private security for the politicians while South Africans are depending on the South African police service. This is wild.
On State of the Nation, Neil De Beer asked a very important question, and I had planned to actually clip it from their video by downloading it. But I'm happy to have found it actually on TikTok, and we're going to discuss this video. He asked some very, very important questions and makes some very important statement. In this very short video, it's only 1 minute, so I'm going to play it and then we'll discuss it.
360 million rand on overtime for bodyguards of VIPs. Who are you afraid of? This is ridiculous that you spend 4 billion in the police budget on VIP protection and only 4 billion on crime intelligence in their budget. Who's prioritizing what, Mike? So I'm telling you, once the blue light reigns, the black BM runs down the line and you get generators for free. As moeilik hoor. You can't go back to being normal. And that's where the argument has laid. It's no longer about the people's will. But whatever side this country goes, be it a democratic, capitalistic kind of entity, or be it a social being, it is still South Africa.
So the first question is absolutely profound because think about it. If they're going to spend on overtime, by the way, on overtime, 350 million rands on overtime for VIP security, for the blue lights and all or whatever, it goes to show you that these political leaders, and I have to assume that most of the political leaders that are using the blue lights are within the ANC and have been. I'll have to assume that these people are very aware of how dangerous the country has become. Oops, there's a fly. Fly!
Flies everywhere, my boy.
Hey, Sama. These people are so aware of how unsafe this country is. They know that it's very unsafe. They know that this country has been led towards shambles. And I have to say, we can't put 100% of the blame to them, but we can put a lot of the blame to them because they should be the ones who are enforcing the law by ensuring that there's more money spent on enforcing the law, by ensuring that the people that are law enforcers are doing their work, and also ensuring that they themselves are not criminals to a certain extent. But unfortunately, we are in South Africa and these people tend to be criminals. They tend to be corrupt. They have corruption allegations against them. They are incompetent and they are lazy. But within that incompetence and that laziness, they are aware of the problems in the country. Because if this country is so safe, you don't need to be spending that much on VIP bodyguards. You know, the certain ministers and ministries that...
And before, it is absurd because if you look at it, average South Africans are the ones that are attacked more than the politicians. When was the last time you heard of an attack towards a politician? So why are these people spending so much money on themselves while the average South Africans are the ones that are putting their lives at risk every day? They decide to go out. Right now, I'm living in the townships. If I decide to go to the shop, I am putting my life at risk because I don't know what is going to happen in the streets. Because South Africa is so unsafe. South Africa, it is so dangerous that even going to the shops, going to the mall, or going to town, it is such an extreme thing to do right now because of how dangerous it is. So why are politicians actually spending so much money to protect themselves? Protecting themselves against what? What is it exactly are they protecting themselves against? Because they are not even dealing with a fraction of what South Africans are dealing with. They are not even dealing with a fraction, a mere 2% of what average South Africans are dealing with on the streets. Why so much money on themselves? Why so much money on themselves? Against what? Against what? And we, as the people of this country, why are we not outraged when we hear something like this? Why are people not on social media? People totally outraged with the fact that they are being slaughtered every day in the streets of South Africa. But the politicians are saying, oh, you guys are being slaughtered, so we might as well spend a lot of money on us. It is absurd.
Because if this country is so safe, you don't need to be spending that much on VIP bodyguards. You know, the certain ministers and ministries that you wonder, why do these people have bodyguards? It does not make sense that they need to have bodyguards. There's people who hold positions that if you find out that they have bodyguards, it's unfathomable. Like, if you think about it, you ask yourself, who are you protecting yourself from? Like, do people even know who you are? And okay, let's say people do know who you are. Do you need as much bodyguards as some of these people have? Because you will find some people having up to 5 heavily armed bodyguards, personal bodyguards. And obviously, if they have bodyguards for themselves, they also need to have bodyguards for their family members. I get it for some people's positions who may be in compromised positions because of the jobs that they do, because of what they deal with. But not everyone should be having this kind of security. Now, okay, these are the ministers, these are the premiers, these are the people who are in parliament. You, the ordinary South African, has to get out of your gate, go to work, go to places wherever you need to go without that kind of security with you. You have to depend on the police. And I'm not saying that the police are doing bad work, but you have to depend solely on them unless you can afford private security for yourself. And even if you can afford some kind of private security, for example, like an ADT, for example, it is still not enough. It is still not enough. And the funny thing about these people who are in politics, these people who are in leadership, they would confidently say to you, if you have a problem that needs security, which they would send you straight to the police.
Yeah, and why don't they do why don't they do the same for themselves? Why don't they do the same for themselves? I'm like, this is the reason why people are actually arguing that maybe it's high time that politicians are actually subjected to the same scrutiny that average South Africans are subjected to. Maybe it's the high time that politicians are actually forced to go to the public hospitals when they need medical attention. Maybe it's high time the politicians are actually forced to depend on South African Police Service whenever they have an issue, an emergency. Maybe it's high time the politicians deal with the issues like average South Africans, because this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. It can't be that every day the politicians are out there telling South Africans that, guys, the South African Police Service is doing an amazing work. You should put all your trust into the South African Police Service. If you have any issues, if someone is trying to get inside your house, you must just make sure that you call the South African Police Service, because they are going to come as soon as possible to make sure that you and your family are safe. But we as the politicians know we are going to put our safety and our lives into the hands of the private sector, of the private security. It is absurd. Why are politicians not also being told or being forced to depend on the South African Police Service? What is it that the politicians are running away from? What is it? Why are politicians doing everything opposite to what the South Africans are doing? Everything that the South Africans, like even right now, even the drinking water, the politicians are not drinking the same municipality water that the people in the townships, the people in the rural areas, the informal settlements are subjected to drinking. The politicians are not drinking the same water. They are not drinking the same water. They are not taking their children to the public schools, the same public schools that they have decided to subject the average South Africans to. If you are an average South African and you don't have enough money, of course your children are going to go to the public schools. But the truth of the matter is that politicians will never take their children to the public schools. The politicians will never take their children to the public colleges. The politicians will take their children overseas. The politicians, whenever they are sick, they will go to the private hospitals. The politicians, whenever they have to deal with an issue that has to do with the security, they know they have the private security, so them and their families are safe, while you and your family are depending on the South African Police Service. Everything that average South Africans are subjected to, politicians are not subjecting themselves to the same. But for some reason, South Africans are the ones that are paying the salaries of these politicians. South Africans are the ones that are paying the salaries and the perks of the same politicians that don't want to subject themselves to the same as average South Africans. Like, it is insane. It is insane. When are we actually going to start forcing the politicians to actually live their lives like average South Africans? Maybe things are going to change in the country. Maybe if politicians are subjected to the same things that South Africans are subjected to, maybe they are going to change. If you are going to force politicians to take their children and put them into public schools, I'm telling you, the education system of this country is going to change. The day a child of a politician is admitted to hospital because they have consumed contaminated food, this issue of spaza shops, this issue of contaminated food is going to be dealt with. The day politicians are forced to go to the public hospitals whenever they or their family members need medical attention, this issue of public hospitals, it is going to be solved. Truth of the matter is that all of these issues are going to stay the same until all of us are forced to do the same.
If there's a crime happening in your area, they'll send you straight to the police. But the crime cannot happen to them because they have this kind of security. And he asks a very important question again, Neil de Beer, and by saying who is being prioritized here. And clearly, when you look at the way these people live, it's not the people in the country. And they may pretend that they want to do better, they will do better for the sake of the people.
No.
All of that is bullshit, let's be honest. Because if they were really doing work for the people, then the country would be a bit safer. It doesn't have to be drastically safer, but it would be safe enough that they themselves would confidently go to work to their offices without needing private security, without needing to spend 350 million rands of taxpayers' money on protecting themselves, because we have a good enough policing system in the country. But because we don't, they spend so much money for their own safety. But
I mean, like, again, it's because like there's an alternative for them. This is the reason why they are not even going to deal with the issue of high crime in this country. The fact that crime is totally out of control. The fact that this country, it is not safe. No, instead of dealing with that issue, they are going to increase the security personnel for themselves and their families, just like with the issue of private hospitals and everything. It's because these people, they have an alternative. And it is said because majority of South Africans cannot even afford this alternative that the politicians are actually enjoying. There's an alternative for them. So there's no need for them to actually look into this issue of crime, look into this issue of the fact that the country is totally not safe. They are not going to look at it. They are not going to look at it. If anything, they are just going to continue to raise the number of security personnel around them. This is what they are going to do. They are going to make sure that they get more armored vehicles, they get more armed security personnel, and to ensure that themselves and their families are safe. They are going to put more electric wires around their homes to make sure that everything is safe on their side. But when it comes to actually dealing with this issue and looking at the issue and saying, guys, what are we going to do to ensure that South Africa is safe? They are not going to do that. They are not going to do that. No, they are not going to do it.
they spend so much money for their own safety, but not yours. And in the video, he mentioned something else like free generators and everything like that. Now it really makes sense why during the times we had the peak of load shedding, it seemed that these people are just tone deaf to the complaints of people about load shedding, because that means they don't experience it. In the office, they don't experience it. At home, they don't experience it. The reason for that is they are spending your money. They're spending tax money to ensure that their lives are continuously comfortable. And one thing that I also like that he said is that it doesn't matter if we have a democratic or a capitalistic or a socialist government, we will still be in South Africa and the leaders will still be the same. Because if you look at the democratic leaders, the strategic thing that the DA, for example, did was to say that, well, we are not going to implement blue lights except for the leader of the DA. Okay, that's very smart. But if they are fully in leadership, I would assume, and even in his own way, it's an assumption that they would spend on blue lights. They would spend on private security. Part of it would be the fact that they actually do need it. Remember, there's people who are in positions that require them to be safe at all times, and they or their families can be used. So they do need to protect themselves and their families. But the rest of the people in parliament, there's so many people that don't need to have blue lights, but they have them. There's so many people that don't need to have this private security, but they have it. And they have so many other free perks that you, as an ordinary South African, can only imagine. Some of it you don't even imagine. Can you imagine a free generator for your home? You have geysers, you have stoves, you have things that chow electricity, and you depended mostly on Eskom. You depended mostly on the electricity that you buy. They have...
Of course, I mean, like, the issue of load shedding. I mean, many people, I know many people, especially in the townships, who have complained that we have lost appliances because of load shedding. We have lost appliances because of load shedding. People, they have lost their food because sometimes the electricity would go off for such a long time that the food in the fridge would actually get wasted. But there's not a single time that they've even actually acknowledged the fact that these are the issues that every South Africans are going through. They have never said, okay, guys, we know that average South Africans are struggling with the fact that they have lost their appliances. What is it that the government can do, especially to the people that have lost their appliances? What is it that we can do? What is it that we can do? People have lost their food. What is it that we can do? I mean, the issue of load shedding, I mean, we have a high unemployment rate in this country. And young people in this country were actually told that, guys, maybe it's high time you guys start opening up your own businesses. And guess what? 60% of the businesses that actually were opened by young people, they ended up failing because of load shedding. 60% of the businesses that young people opened failed because of load shedding. People were targeted in the bus stops because of load shedding. It is dark. Some people are going to work at odd hours, and these people are targeted because of load shedding. Like, there is so many issues that have not even been addressed because of load shedding. No, as long as they have the lights, as long as their family members have the lights, everything it is okay. They don't even acknowledge the issues that are being faced by average South Africans. This is one thing that actually infuriates me, that they don't even say that, okay, guys, this is what you have actually went through, and we actually acknowledge that. No, they don't. They don't. They don't. People lost so much, man, because of load shedding. People lost so much. Some people lost their jobs. Some companies closed their doors because the South African government cannot even keep the lights on. So companies left. People lost their livelihoods. People lost their livelihoods. People made plans for the festive season. People wanted to take their children out. People wanted to do something nice for their families. But they could not because the companies have actually closed. Because some of these companies are complaining that, no, the South African government is incompetent. They cannot even keep the lights on. But they want us to continue paying tax and to continue hiring people. They don't even acknowledge the issues that are faced by average South Africans. And this is the most infuriating part.
Free generators, they get free solar, which, by the way, this video is sponsored by Soul Active Solutions. They deal with solar, they deal with solar maintenance, installation. They have Geico geysers. You know, Geico geysers is something that is also connected to your main switch, to your solar, and then, you know, you use the sun, you use photosynthesis. It's not photosynthesis, but, you know, you use, it's basically alternative energy for your home, and you can get that through Soul Active Solutions. So do check out Soul Active Solutions. You will be supporting this channel directly if you buy from them, if you use their services. So do the right thing and do that. Unfortunately, you need to go with Soul Active, but these people in government, they don't need Soul Active. These people in government, they don't need the SAPS because they have the blue lights. They are fully protected. They will not use the police system. And this conversation actually leads again to, for example, public hospitals.
Of course.
Here they are implementing things such as NHI, which NHI I think would decimate the middle class, but it is part of the plan. That's not the topic of this video. The officials in government would never imagine themselves in a public hospital. They can never imagine themselves there. They would never want to subject themselves to a public hospital. Aaron Motsoaledi, I think he's the Minister of Health at the moment. I don't think he would go to a public hospital in this country for any sort of his emergency for himself or his family members and people who are close to him. I don't think he would risk it. And I use that word risk intentionally because that's exactly what it would be, especially in a case of an emergency. Now, of course, we do get people that are helped in the public health system in this country, in public hospitals, because they don't have a choice. And people that do have a choice, and they go to private hospitals. But now they want to take away that choice because you can afford to. Let me not digress too much. Let me keep it to our leaders. Can you imagine Aaron Motsoaledi at Barra or Helen Joseph?
Never.
And without them using their name and their position to be treated better, to have state-of-the-art treatment, to have state-of-the-art equipment to treat whatever they may be going through. Can you imagine them going to a public hospital in South Africa and not using their position or their name to ensure that things are ran better for them for the cost that they are there? Unfortunately, you cannot. I also cannot imagine it because I know for a fact that they would not, number one, just think of going to a public hospital, because if they go to a public hospital, they have to be subjected to what the rest of ordinary South Africans that cannot afford to have private medical care, like a medical aid, or cannot afford to go to a private hospital. They would have to put themselves through that. And I don't think they want to do that. They would not. They don't want to do that. They would not go stand in a queue in a clinic in any township to get whatever treatment they need. They would never take any of their children. And yet they spend so much of taxpayers' money on themselves to ensure that their lives are comfortable. This is why it is very important for South Africans to understand that none of these political leaders have you at the forefront of their mind. You may have favorites, you may have those that you vote for, which is a good thing. You should vote, especially make their correct decisions when you're voting. Make good decisions when you're voting. But understand something. Whether they are on the far left or they are on the far right, it's themselves first before you. Even if they say that it's you before them. Because at the end of the day, human nature takes precedence over their leadership position. So you look at an EFF, for example, and you say this is a revolutionary movement. You look at MK, for example, and think this is a revolutionary movement, and they are for the people. When push really comes to shove, that's not the truth. They have private security. They can afford to go to private hospitals. They don't use public transport. They don't need it. A lot of you can't go to work the whole month without borrowing money, because you have ran out of money by the mid-month. Like before the end of the month, mid-month, your salary has ended long ago. And during the time where we still had trains functioning properly, I can speak for Gauteng specifically with this case. When we had the train system functioning properly, you had people that were able to at least buy a monthly train ticket. Now you can't buy a monthly train ticket. You need to use taxis. And with these taxis, you pay every single trip. A lot of you can't even afford to get to work anymore. Getting to work is just an expense. A big part of your expenses, monthly costs. These people don't have that problem. They have vehicles that they are given to that are spent through your tax. They get fuel subsidies. You don't. On top of their salaries, there's so many other benefits. Benefits that you cannot start to imagine. Think about it, 350 million rands spent on private security over time, by the way. So, what is the actual budget? Let's say 1 year. What is the actual budget for private security, excluding that over time? But if you are in trouble, who do you call? SAPS. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't come, not because they don't want to, but because they are over capacity. And there's just too many things happening in this country. In your own township right now, if you call the police, maybe there's a break-in next door. If you call the police right now, they will not arrive within the next 15 to 30 minutes.
No, they are not.
Even if the police station is just 10 minutes away, they will not arrive within the next 15 or 30 minutes. And you could one side blame it on the fact that they maybe be lazy or they just don't want to do their job. But a big part of it is that they are over capacity. We don't have enough police officers. We don't have enough resources for our police station. Go to any police station in this country. As soon as you go in there, you're like, hi, man. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. No state-of-the-art equipment. Everything is still paper-based. You look at the floors, you look at just the setup of the police station. Now, I'm not saying that a police station should look beautiful and presentable or whatever, because at the end of the day, their job is to be police officers on the ground, right? Yes, we can have that conversation. But when you enter the police station, looking at the police station itself, it should give you enough confidence to say, these people are going to do some work. Because if you go to a private office, let's say a private security company office, as soon as you enter their premises, and just looking at how it looks, just observing it,
Of course.
it builds some confidence in you that these people will do a good job in protecting you, protecting your family. or protecting your event if it's just an event. But if you enter a police station, you may enter in a good mood to certify a piece of paper. When you leave, you're a bit down because the environment, I can only imagine what it feels like to be a police officer who has to be in a police station every day. The environment doesn't give you that, I want to work, you know?
Of course. Even like the way like the police officers are, the way the police officers are. Some people may say that is because it is their attitude, or maybe you could think it's because these people deal with so many people every day with different complaints that maybe when you get there, people are exactly not in the mood, or people are already fatigued with dealing with a lot of issues. But even the way the police officers carry themselves, they don't inspire any confidence. They don't inspire any confidence. Even if the police come, if there was a break-in in this house and the police come, they are not going to give you that confidence that we are going to get a hold of this issue. We are going to ensure that the people that have committed this crime are going to be dealt with decisively. No, this is not the confidence that you are going to get from interacting with the police. I don't know, maybe it's because these people, like Tsepo is saying, that they are already overcapacitated. They are already dealing with a lot of issues. So when they have to deal with your issue also, like, they don't inspire any confidence. Truth of the matter is that the South African Police Service, they don't inspire any confidence. This is the reason why it is so hard for the people, for the average South Africans to solely depend on the South African Police Service when they are being told that, guys, you see, if you have to deal with an issue that has to do with the security, you must trust the South African Police Service. But truth of the matter is that the people do not trust the South African Police Service because the South African Police Service does not inspire any confidence. They don't inspire any confidence. Like, when you speak with them, the way they do their things, like, they don't inspire any confidence. It is sad, man. It is said that so much money is spent on the politicians instead of actually empowering this institution. Instead of empowering this institution that is actually dealing with the safety of millions and millions of people. That's why when I started this video, I said South Africans don't hate politicians enough. Like, they don't hate politicians enough. They actually love politicians, but politicians have already proven themselves that they hate the people. They hate the people. I mean, what can we say about this? What is the excuse? What is the excuse for all of these things? The truth of the matter is that they hate the people. They hate the people. You know, Donald Trump once said that you cannot lead the people that you hate. You cannot lead America if you hate Americans. But in South Africa, I see there's a case of politicians who absolutely hate South Africans, but they are leading South Africa. They are leading South Africa. This is the reason why they are doing all of these things that they are doing. This is why. It's because they hate South Africans. If these politicians actually loved South Africans, there's absolutely no way that they would subject South Africans to this kind of nonsense while they themselves and their families are okay, while their lives are going smoothly and millions of South Africans' lives are going harsh. Truth of the matter is that South African politicians, they hate South Africans. They hate this country and they hate the people of this country. They hate them. They hate them. 30 years into democracy, the ANC still talks, they still run their mouths about, yeah, we are the best political party in this country. We love black people. We love black people. Yeah, look at what the DA is subjecting black people into. Look at Langa. Look at, what is this issue that they, what is this place they love talking about in the Western Cape? They say, look at Langa, look at Michelle's plane, look at all of these issues. But they don't say anything about where they govern. They don't say anything about Deep Sloot. They don't say anything about Alexandra. But they think it's okay to actually mock other political parties where they govern and saying, guys, look at what these people are subjecting black people to. They hate black people. But they themselves, it's not like they are governing better for black people. It's not like they are governing better for black people. So it's okay for them to just deflect and keep it moving. They hate you. They hate you. Like, this is one thing. And I guess this is the reason why I'm so upset with the fact that South Africans are paying so much money to maintain the lives of the people that actually hate them. Because this is what is happening. South Africans are paying to maintain the life of politicians that hates them.
But they, just on overtime, 350 million rands a year spent. Guys, you need to get this through your head. You are on your own as South Africans.
Of course.
The things that we can hope for in this country from our government is good governance and at least increase it by 50% of what we already have. Make the country a bit, maybe 50% safer than what it is. Make the country conducive enough for business so that we can create employment. And then what else? Improve on the economy and ensure that we have electricity and running water. And then the rest of everything else, we are on our own. I am telling you. Everything else, we are on our own. And I'm not sure what it will take until we can be fully confident at our political leaders who are supposed to be leaders in government. I'm not sure what it will take. But at the moment, it's really looking bleak from my point of view. And I hope I am wrong. I always hope I am wrong when I look at things in this light. I always hope that I am wrong. Because if I am wrong, I'll be happy to be proven wrong. But at the moment, who's proving me wrong? And leadership. Who's proving me wrong? And even if we speak in isolation of a few people like your Dr. Who's the Minister of Electricity again? I've made a video about him and I forgot his name. Ramokgopa. Yes, Ramokgopa. McPherson, Schreiber. You know, in isolation, we can speak in isolation about a few people, but it's the whole organization and it is the whole coalition that has to do better so that the whole country runs a bit better than what it is.
Man, you see, when it comes to the coalition, man, I'm one of the people that is absolutely losing my confidence in the coalition. Because I thought that when these people get into governance, maybe, just maybe, they are going to solely focus on governing and making things better for the people of this country. But it's almost as if they want the coalition to collapse. And that is making people feel anxious. Because many people were actually so confident with the fact that, the ANC and the DA are going to work together and maybe finally the country is going to be prioritized. But looking at what is happening, looking at the fact that they are trying to do everything to discredit each other instead of just empowering each other, it is sad. It is sad to see what is happening. It is sad. Every day, the ANC leaders are all over television talking about how they don't care about the DA, how they don't need the DA, and how the ANC can survive without the DA. But they didn't say this when they needed the DA to vote for Ramaphosa to be the president. The DA is out here saying that, no, the ANC is incompetent. The ANC is governing the country as if they have won the elections. So there's this tension between the ANC and the DA, and it is actually not making me feel settled. I'm kind of anxious of this back and forth between the ANC and the DA. I didn't think that these people would spend so much money. Of course, I know that the political parties are not there to hold hands and become kumbaya, but I didn't think that they would actually prioritize hitting each other instead of just working for the people of this country. But it seems like they are more prioritized on trying to discredit each other instead of working together. I understand all the political parties are there to represent themselves and to represent their values, fine. And most of these political parties, they don't see things the same. They are not on the same page when it comes to the values, when it comes to the priorities. But again, you would not think that they would actually attack each other so much. I guess this is what I'm trying to say. I didn't think they would attack each other so much. I thought that, okay, the attacks would come. There and there you would find attacks. Yeah, it's fine. It is expected. It is the ANC and the DA after all. Of course, the attacks are expected, but I didn't think that they would be so intense. But now they are so intense every week. I remember last week I said, if I'm even tired of making content about the things that the DA says about the ANC and the things that the ANC says about the DA, because like it's infuriating. that the attacks are so insane. It's infuriating.
And if things are a bit better in government, it will be much better on the ground with ordinary South Africans. Because ordinary South Africans, for the most part, with exceptions to very few people, are getting along. Which, by the way, I think FKNArmy.com, FKNArmy.com. Check them out. You can check them on TikTok. You can check them. Just check their website. I've become a member. It's, what's his name again? Vencel. Oh man, I forgot his name. But that's an Afrikaner guy, by the way, doing really good for just people. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter of your background. With FKN Army, I'm going to call it fucking army.com. If you donate to their website, this is not a sponsorship. They don't even know me. But I know that they do good work for poor people, for people who need that help. And these are the kind of people that are doing real work in South Africa, not our government. There's people who are doing real work out there and that we need to support, that we have to support. There's many more that I'll speak about in other videos, but in this video specifically, FKN Army, fucking army.com. So, you see, those organizations, they're doing better than government with way smaller amounts of money and support. And to be quite honest with you, as much as I admire and I'm proud of these people, it is very disappointing that we have to have these kinds of people doing the work that the government should be doing. Let me know what you think. Let's have a conversation.
That's my boy. That is Tshepo Mavimbela, guys. That is Tshepo Mavimbela, raising important voice, raising important points about this country of ours. And many of us are actually concerned about the country, man. Many of us are actually concerned about the country. We are concerned, but the way the South African politicians carry themselves, and this idea that South Africans, and this thing that South Africans actually only get outraged when the issues have to do with race. This is one thing that South Africans actually need to be aware of, because politicians are happy as long as we don't address these issues that are happening in the country, as long as we are obsessed with the issues that have to do with race, and only those issues, the politicians are happy. Because as long as we talk about the issues that have to do with race, the politicians will always find a way to actually make themselves to enter the room and to say that, guys, we told you and we have the solutions when it comes to these issues. But just imagine 350 million rands, 350 million, 4 billion rands on the security of the politicians. How many political parties are actually even raising this issue in parliament? How many political parties are actually out there saying that, guys, this is outrageous? How many of them? It's insane. Guys, please tell me what you think on the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part is subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.